If you weren't aware, there's a cool little trick you can do with McKay to get out further into the map right after you spawn in, if you didn't get a vehicle or you just don't like driving them. When the deployment helicopter is flying away, you can actually grapple to it and it'll lift you into the air. Then you can parachute further into the map. This might get patched out at some point, but I thought it was neat and I hope it sticks around. So with that, let's get into Battlefield 2042 Season 1. If you watched my last video about the leaks for Season 1, they were pretty much all correct. We got Lise as a specialist with her guided launcher. She looks pretty cool, and I didn't notice any irritating voice lines when I was playing with her, so that's nice. From a balance perspective, she seems like kind of a dud. The guided launcher feels more like a meme than anything. I think it could be effective against tanks, but I found it really difficult to consistently hit aircrafts. Pretty trash against infantry too. You need a direct hit on a full health opponent for a kill. You do get infinite ammo, but you only get 2 rounds at a time, and they recharge over time. They also cannot be refilled by an ammo box. All in all, I'd rather take the recoilless M5 for anti-vehicle play and use a specialist with a little bit more utility in their abilities. But messing around with the guided launcher can be fun too. I don't want to spend too much time on the battle pass and cosmetics. They are what they are. Some are better than others. I'll link a really great video from USA Specialist if you want to see more detail about the battle pass and the store cosmetics. For me, long story short, this aspect is very similar to Warzone, but one thing I very much like compared to Warzone is that if you want to buy a character skin that is included in a bundle, you can do that separately at a reduced price. In Warzone, you're forced to buy the entire bundle even if you only want the skin. In 2042's store for bundles right now, they each cost 1,000 coins, but you can opt to just buy the specialist skin from a bundle for 750. I always hate Warzone's implementation, and I'm really happy to see this here. As far as new weapons, we effectively only have one new gun. It's fine. It feels like it has more character than some of the guns from launch, so I like that. I don't think it really shakes up the meta though. Things like the MP9, the M5, the AK, those will still be great. We have the smoke grenade launcher, which I really love. In Battlefield 5, I used to use the smoke grenade throwable along with the smoke launcher to create huge smoke walls for reviving and to help advance on enemy points. So I'm really happy to see it included here. I do think it'll struggle to find a place though with the open gadget selection we have in this game compared to the F5. It's just really hard to justify it over things like health bags, ammo boxes, spawn beacons, and launchers. Maybe it'll have a better chance in the future if we ever get that specialist rework DICE has talked about. Crossbow is what you'd expect. It's fun, mostly just something to mess around with and not something that's particularly useful, but it's cool to see it in the game for those that like to play around with weapons like that. What I really want to take the time to talk about here today though is the new exposure map. Just to get it out of the way really quickly, overall, it's a pretty good map with a lot to love, and it absolutely destroys the launch maps. It's not perfect, but I genuinely enjoy playing on this map, and they seem to have taken inspiration from a lot of maps from Battlefield's past. You can play on 3 different tiers of elevation on this map. Personally, as someone who plays mostly infantry, I'm not that fond of the lowest tier. Pilots will be able to easily farm infantry here, and the whole area is generally a little more open than I'd like, but it's cool to have an area that is more vehicle focused for the players that like to do that. If you're someone who loves the meat grinder aspect of maps like Metro, you'll love the middle section of this map, especially fighting around the C point conquest. I've personally never been in love with that meat grinder style of play, and it's exacerbated by the 128 player count. The crevice between C and B also isn't my favorite. Very little cover with lots of campers on the rocks taking you out as soon as you spawn. I don't think you're supposed to spend too much time there. It's mostly a traversal area, but just trying to get from one side to the other feels like a death trap, and you might be better off just killing yourself and finding a way to spawn on the other side, to be honest. But since the C sector is a sector that only has one capture point, the firefights are really intense in that building, and it does really evoke memories of previous battlefields on Metro. For someone like me, the top tier feels the best and most balanced, and fighting around the A point specifically feels super satisfying and engaging. I think there's a great balance of vehicle and infantry play here, and it reminds me a lot of more traditional Battlefield play. However, some of the questionable design decisions from launch do still pop up from time to time. For instance, the space between A1 and A2 specifically is just an open killing field, including the parking lot just outside of A2. If a team is defending A2, they'll just wipe out hordes of attackers trying to advance since they have no real cover to help them in their advance. Additionally, the Russian side of the map feels really strangely laid out compared to the US side. F1 and F2 are really close together, which is nice for infantry trying to travel between the 2 points, but it leaves this massive void to the north of these 2 points between the main Russian spawn and A2. It feels really bizarre to have 2 points clustered at the bottom with nothing to really play for north of those. Maybe a third capture point would have been cool. There's also a similarly strange layout on the southern lowest tier of the map where E1 and E2 feel much closer to the US side, and it kind of gives the feeling that the US team has a massive advantage over that sector. Outside of balance though, it just feels strange to have this empty space at all rather than condensing those areas a bit or filling them with something else. Looking at the US side, I really like how their gimme flags are equally spread north to south. It helps divide the team up so one area doesn't see too much occupation and fighting compared to the others. And I'd like to see the F and E sectors get rearranged to do something similar or just have an additional F point to fill out that empty space. Outside of this, the level of detail and visual fidelity feels like a massive step up here, and visibility is also really good. I'm not struggling to see opponents like some of the other maps, and I genuinely enjoy just kind of looking around at the scenery. So to just overall sum up my thoughts on Season 1, I'd say the content we got was actually generally pretty good. Problem here though is that there's just not enough of it. We got one map, 2 weapons, a single gadget, and a single specialist, and those just don't feel like enough for 3 full months of a season. We even essentially only got one helicopter just reskinned for the US or Russia side, and we don't get our first map rework until the end of Season 1. This absolutely glacial pace is still pretty concerning to me. I was really hoping for Season 1 to have a swell of content to pull players back in, and I'm hoping in the future we see seasons with at least 2 or more new maps, 4 or more weapons, multiple map reworks from the launch pool, and generally more content that elevates and changes the experience. Exposure was a great start from a quality perspective, and we'll see how things pan out once the portal guns are in the mix. In the meantime, I'm guessing I'm just going to be playing the Exposure 24/7 playlist until I burn out on it in a few weeks. That about does it for my thoughts on Season 1, and I want to hear from all of you. Have you had a chance to try Season 1, and if so, what do you think of it? For those that own the game but haven't played in a while, is Season 1 along with the previous updates enough to bring you back in? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to have a conversation. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike so I know I need to change something. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next video.